Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have a very interesting video that many of you probably will love to refer to. I am talking about setting the order of which objects are to print when you're printing by layer. Yes, I'm going to show you how to do it. And it's working. Orca Slicer. Haven't checked it if it works in Studio. You may check the same thing there. I don't know. I'm not using Studio. It has too few features to be. Anyway, let's just get into it. And if you like these kind of videos and you like my channel, give me a like and a sub and support the channel. Thank you so much. Let's get to it. So I have Orca Slicer here. And here is a work in progress which I'm about to release. This is basically a set distance calibration test. Yes. So basically it will allow you to get a pretty correct set distance offset by testing printing. But by default it starts printing this, and then it starts on the top, and I wanted to start from the top and print downwards. Now the first thing you need to do in a scenario like this, as far as I understand this, you need your filament that is here. Here is your filament, and these need to have different colors. For instance, or if you have the option to have the same color but you want to print them in different sequences, like I'm doing here. I have made several copies of the same filament, but it is set to print for different things. So on the, let me see, I'll just go back to here. So on the first one is minus 0.04, then it uses the 0.04 in the list here. On the next one, 0.035, it uses the next one in the list here. So basically each object on this print has its own filament. Okay? And that's kind of crucial for what I'm going to show you. There may be other ways to do this, but this is how it works for me, and I just found this out, so that maybe it's not the correct way to do it. Don't kill me, but I'm going to show you how I managed to do this. Okay, so my goal is to be able to print from the top and down. But by default, Orca Slicer selects the closest model and tries to print accordingly. So at the bottom of your Orca Slicer you can see the print sequence on the first layer, because on the global settings, others, it is set to by layer, not by object, because if you set the by object you cannot fit all this in one plate. So set this to by layer, because you want to print all of them in the same layer first. Okay, and then you go to slice it, and you will see the sequence that you have. Okay, and at the bottom here, as I said, you have a bar you probably haven't used so much, but this one basically shows how it draws all the objects in sequence. So it starts with 0, and then you can see, if I tilt this sideways, you will actually see an impression of a print head that prints it, and then you can see it starts to print downwards. So this is basically the sequence that it's printing in currently. But as you can see at the start there, it didn't start with the top. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. By default now, every one of these also have the same order that I have put these in here. So all the filaments here, like 1, filament 2, filament 3, filament 4, filament 5, filament 6, that equals the order I want to print here with. Now that may not be the case for you. That is why you have to change the order. Okay. So first step, select all the color, all the filaments you need. And if you want to control the order sort of partially, make sure those filaments are selected in order in this list. That's what I have done here. If it's not in order in that list, you have to manually put it in order later. I'll show you how. Okay, so let's say you did that like me. You put all these in an order. But even though this 005 is in order in my list, it is listed as number 8 here. It prints first. I don't want that. So I want to put that first, okay? So you start by going to the global menu down here to others. And in my case, I don't want brim. No brim. And then forget that. But you go in the others and then you go down to special mode. This is an Orca Slicer, remember. It could be different in Studio. And then you go to by layer. You leave that there because you want to print by layer to have all the objects in one setting. But you have in Orca Slicer something called intra-layer order. And if you hold your mouse over, it says print order within a single layer. Okay? And when you click this, you have as object list. Now you would think that you can go into object here and select the different order here. But that doesn't matter. That's not what it does. So basically you go in global and you select as object list. And then you leave that as object list. And then you click on objects. And you select the build plate. I have 2 build plates in my overview here. I have one there and I have one there. I'm going to change this one. And then you go down and you select, okay, I want to click on build plate 2 because I want these settings to count for the whole build plate. Okay. So select the build plate. Not an object, select the build plate. Then under build plate it will show by layer. Okay, make sure that is correct for that build plate. And then under here you have something called first layer filament sequence, and it is automatically set to auto by default. So click that one and select customize. Now in my screen, on my screen, you can actually see that it keeps the same order of print that shows here. Okay, and the first part here is for the very first layer. The second part here is for every other layer. So you can go and you can select customize for that too, or you can select it down here and select. But if you select customize here as well, which I recommend, always print the same layer at the same thingy, then you can see that it gives another list here. Now here comes the fun part. If I select OK now, it will have fixed my problem with the one that didn't print correctly, because now it will be forced to print filament 1, filament 2, filament 3, filament 4, filament 5, filament 7, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Okay? Which means that it will be forced to print first this, then this, then this, then this, instead of printing this first and then start on the top. Okay? You can change that order. Let me first show you that now. You bring it in, and it says customized here at the side now, and then you slice it again. And you will see that when I now bring this to the bottom and I start to scroll it, it will start from the top. So for me, that is the correct order I want it to print as. Okay? And then you get to the end. But let's say you want to decide yourself which order you want to have. So you click here and select customize again. That brings up the window. And then let's say I want to print that one first. And then I want to print this one. You left click, you hold and you drag. And then you want to print this one there. And number 18 I want as number 6. So for the first layer now it is selecting that order, and then I press OK. Then you slice it. Very important. You have to sort of save it by slicing it. Now I have sliced it again. You already probably could see it. So now it's following the order I decided that it should print by the first layer. And then it continues with the original as it had it. You understand that? And now, since I haven't changed this one at the bottom, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? When I go to this slider here and show by layer, so let's go to layer 2 or 3, layer 2, 3, let's go to layer 3, and I did the same thing there. But now you can see that because I still keep the original one there, everything after that is printed in the first order for this all alternative layers that I set. Okay. So basically you can decide in Orca Slicer on by layer which object to print when. I once saw a guide that said, oh, you can delete them in order and then bring them back in order. That's not how you do it. This is give you more control and is very, very detailed on how you do it. So how can I get back everything I did before? Select auto, go to customize, and the one I set before here has reverted back to its original setting, because it always takes the default setting of order of filaments you have here and suggest that as your default order. So for me now, you can actually say here, oh, I want to start by layer customize, layer 5 for instance. From layer 5 I want to print like this. And yes, so I go back to auto and go back to auto, and then I select OK, customize, and I select customize, and by default now I have this has now the correct order and this have now the correct order, because from layer 2 and onwards I wanted to print like that as well. Slice it. And then you can see that I now have the exact order in which I want to print this. And for all the other layers, I'm just jumping over layer 2 because I have a pause there. For all the other layers, it will show exactly the same order. So I hope that showed you really well on how you can change the order of how to print each object on your build plate. Now there may be a problem here. If you're printing as parts, parts is when you have a list of objects under one. It's when you have a list of parts listed under one object. So you can import as object and split the part, and then you will get one main object, and then you have a lot of sub objects under it. Then I haven't tested how it will be like to print like that, but you can test yourself. May work, may not. For me, print by object is the way to go for me on this. And it also let me go in and say, okay, I don't want to run these because I know they will not print. So I can just go in, and since I'm selecting my object, I can unselect those. And when I then go and select OK, go back, select build plate, and select customize auto, and you will see it lists as 21, but it will not print the other ones here because the print is disabled. So like that. OK, and then we'll go back and we'll save it. And that concludes my video for today. Serializing none. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.